Good morning. It is a brand new week, week 17, as we read the Bible in Tanakh order. So grateful to have you with us. So grateful to have you on this journey. Invite your friends. Just an encouragement for Christians and just people who are seeking to know the truth to read through the whole Bible. We have this project and we also have the Chronological Project, which is ending this year and will restart in January, all being well. But today we continue our story in 2 Kings chapter 9 to 11 from the Complete Jewish Bible. And let us begin. 2 Kings chapter 9. Elijah the prophet summoned one of the guild prophets and said to him, "Prepare for traveling. Take this flask of oil in your hand and go to Ramoth Gilead. When you get there, look for Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi. Enter, have him step away from his companions, and take him to an inside room. Then take the flask of oil, pour it on his head, and say, 'This is what Adonai says. I have anointed you king over Israel.' After that, open the door and get away from there as fast as you can." So the young prophet left for Ramoth Gilead. When he arrived, he found the senior army officer sitting there. He said, "I have a message for you, Commander." Jehu asked, "For which one of us?" "For you, Commander," he said. Jehu got up and went into the house. Then the prophet poured the oil on his head and said to him, "This is what Adonai, the God of Israel, says. I have anointed you king over the people of Adonai, over Israel. You will attack the house of Yaakov, your master, so that I can avenge the blood of my servants, the prophets, and all the servants of Adonai, blood shed by Isabel. The entire house of Akav will perish. I will cut off from Akav every male, whether a slave or free in Israel. I'll make the house of Akav like the house of Yoravam, the son of Nevat, and like the house of Baasha, the son of Achiah. Moreover, the dogs will eat Isabel in the dumping ground of Yisrael, and there will be no one to bury her." Then he opened the door and fled. Jehu returned to the servants of his lord, and one of them said to him, "Is everything all right? Why did this Mishugah come to you?" He answered them, "You know the kind and how they babble." They said, "You're being evasive. Come on, tell us the truth." Then he said, "This is exactly what he said to me and how he said it. Here is what Adonai says. I have anointed you king over Israel." At this they hurried each one to take his cloak and put it under Jehu at the top of the stairs. Then they blew the shofar and proclaimed, "Jehu is king." Jehu the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, formed a conspiracy against Joram. At the time Joram was guarding Ramoth Gilead, he and all Israel, because of Azael, king of Aram. But Joram himself had returned to Israel to recover from the wounds Aram had inflicted on him when fighting Hazael, king of Aram. "If you agree," said Jehu, "then don't allow anyone to leave town and take the news to Israel." So Jehu, riding on a chariot, went to Israel, for Joram was laid up there. Achaziah, king of Yehuda, had come down to visit Joram. The lookout standing on the watchtower in Yisrael saw Jehu's troops approaching and said, "I see some troops coming." Joram said, "Have a horseman go to meet him and ask, 'Are you coming in peace?'" So a man on horseback went to meet him and said, "The king asks if you are coming in peace." Jehu answered, "Peace? What business is that of yours? Turn around and get behind me." The watchman reported, "The messenger reached them, but he isn't coming back." So he sent out a second man on a horseback, who, on coming to him, said, "The king asks if you are coming in peace." Jehu answered, "Peace? What business is that of yours? Turn around and get behind me." The watchman reported, "He reached them, but he isn't coming back." Also, it looks like the driving of Jehu, Nimshi's grandson. He's driving like a maniac. "Harness my chariot," ordered Joram. They got it ready. Then Joram, king of Israel, and Achaziah, king of Judah, each in his chariots, went out to meet Jehu. They met him in the field of Navoth, the Yisraeli. When Joram saw Jehu, he said, "Are you coming in peace, Jehu?" He answered, "Peace? with your mother Isabel continuing all her cultic prostitution and witchcraft? What a question. Joram wheeled around and fled, shouting, Treachery! Akazah! Yehu drew his bow with all his strength and struck Joram between the shoulder blades. The arrow went through his heart, and he collapsed in his chariot. Pick him up, said Yehu to Bidkar, his servant, and throw him into the field of Navot the Israeli. For remember how, when you and I were riding together with Akav, his father, Adonai pronounced this sentence against him. Adonai says, Yesterday I saw the blood of Navot and the blood of his sons. Adonai also says, I will pay you back in this field. Therefore, pick him up and throw him into the field, in keeping with what Adonai said. But when Yakazah, the king of Yehuda, saw this, he fled on the road past Beat Hagan. Yehu pursued him and ordered, Strike him too in his chariot. So they struck him at the Gur ascent, near Yiveliam. He fled to Megiddo, but there he died. His servants carried him in a chariot to Jerusalem and buried him in his tomb with his ancestors in the city of David. It was in the 11th year of Joram, the son of Yaakov, that Akazah had begun his rule over Yehuda. When Yehu reached Israel and Isabel heard of it, she put on eye makeup, fixed her hair, and looked out the window. As Yehu came through the city gate, she asked, Are you here in peace, you Zimri, you murderer of your master? Looking up at the window, he said, Who is on my side? Who? 2 or 3 officers looked out toward him, and he said, Throw her down. So they threw her down. Some of her blood splashed on the wall and the horses, and she was trampled underfoot. He went in, ate and drank, and then said, Deal with this accursed woman, bury her, because she is a king's daughter. They went to bury her, but found no more of her than her skull, feet, and hands. So they came back and told him. He said, This is what Adonai said through his servant Eliyahu from Tishbe. In the field of Israel, the dogs will eat the flesh of Isabel. Isabel's corpse in the field of Israel will be like dung on the ground, unrecognizable as Isabel. Chapter 10. There were 70 descendants of Akav in Shamron. Yehu wrote letters and sent them to Shamron, to the rulers of Israel, to the leaders, and to the guardians of Akav's sons. The letters said, You have with you your master's sons, also chariots and horses, as well as fortified cities and armor. So as soon as this letter reaches you, choose the best and most suitable of your master's sons, set him on his father's throne, and fight for your master's dynasty. They were panic-stricken and said, If the other 2 kings couldn't withstand him, how will we? So the administrators of the palace, with the governor of the city, the leaders and the children's guardians sent this message to Yehu. We are your servants. We will do everything you ask us to do. We won't appoint anyone king. Do as you see fit. He wrote a second letter to them, which said, If you are on my side, and if you are ready to obey my orders, then bring the heads of your master's sons to me in Israel by this time tomorrow. Now the 70 sons of the king were with the prominent men who had raised them. When the letter reached them, they seized the king's sons and killed them, all 70 of them, put their heads in baskets, and sent them to Yehu in Israel. A messenger came and told him, They have brought the heads of the king's sons, he said. Leave them in 2 piles at the entrance of the city gate until morning. When morning came, he went out, stood before the people, and said, You are not responsible for the deaths of these men. Yes, I conspired against my master and killed him. But who killed all these? Understand, then, that no part of Adonai's word which Adonai spoke concerning the dynasty of Akav falls to the ground, because Adonai has done what he said through his servants Yelahu. So Yehu killed everyone who remained from the house of Akav in Israel, and his leading men, his close friends, and his Kohanim, until not one of them was left alive. Then he set out and went to Shamron. On the way, he reached a shearing shed for shepherds, where he encountered relatives of Akaziah, king of Yehuda. Who are you? He asked. We're relatives of Akazah. They answered, and we're going down to pay our respects to the families of the king and of the queen mother. Take them alive, said Jehu. They took them alive, 42 men, slaughtered them, threw them into the shearing fields pit. He spared not one of them. On leaving there, he happened upon Jehonadab, the son of Rechab, coming toward him. He greeted him and said to him, Are you wholeheartedly with me, as I am with you? Yes, answered Jehonadab. If so, give me your hand. He gave him his hand, and Jehu took him up into the chariot. He said, Come with me, and see how zealous I am for Adonai. So they had him ride in his chariot. On arriving in Shamron, he put to death everyone that Achav still had in Shamron, until he had destroyed him, in keeping with the word of Adonai, which he had spoken to Eliyahu. Next, Jehu assembled all the people and said to them, Achav served Baal in limited measure, but Jehu will serve him with full zeal. Therefore, summon all the prophets of Baal to me, all his worshippers and all his priests. None of them is to be missing, because I am going to offer a great sacrifice to Baal. Whoever is missing will not remain alive. But Jehu was setting a trap in order to destroy the worshippers of Baal. Jehu said, Proclaim a solemn assembly for Baal, and they did so. Jehu sent throughout all Israel, and all the worshippers of Baal came, so that there was not one man left that didn't come. They entered the temple of Baal, and the temple of Baal was filled from one end to the other. To the man in charge of the wardrobe, he said, Bring out robes for all the worshippers of Baal. And he brought them clothes. Jehu and Jonadab, the son of Rechab, entered the house of Baal and said to the worshippers of Baal, Search to see that none of the servants of Adonai is here with you, only worshippers of Baal. Then they went in to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. But Jehu had chosen 80 men to remain outside. He said, If any of the men I am about to put in your hands escapes, it will be your life for his. As soon as he had finished offering the burnt offering, Jehu said to the guards and officers, Go in and kill them. Don't let one of them get out. So they killed them with the sword. Then after the guards and the officer had thrown their bodies outside, they went into the temple of Baal's inner shrine and brought out the pillars in the temple of Baal and burned them. Finally, they broke down Baal's standing stone and demolished the temple of Baal, converting it into a latrine, which it still is today. Thus, Jehu rid Israel of Baal. However, Jehu did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which he had led Israel into sin. The gold calves that were in Beatel and Dan, Adonai said to Jehu, Because you did well in accomplishing what is right from my perspective, and have done to the house of Yaakov everything that was in my heart, your descendants down to the 4th generation will sit on the throne of Israel. But Jehu made no effort to live wholeheartedly according to the Torah of Adonai, the God of Israel, and did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, with which he had led Israel into sin. It was during that period that Adonai began to dismember Israel. Hazael attacked them throughout the territory of Israel, east of the Jordan, all the land of Gilead and Gadi, Reuveni and Manasseh, from Aroer by the Arnon River, including Gilead and Bashan. Other activities of Jehu, all his accomplishments and all his power, are recorded in the annals of the kings of Israel. Jehu slept with his ancestors, and they buried him in Shamron. Then Jochaz, his son, became king in his place. Jehu ruled over Israel in Shamron for 28 years. Chapter 11. When Athaliah, the mother of Achazah, saw that her son was dead, she set about destroying the entire royal family. But Yehoshua, the daughter of King Joram, sister of Achaziah, took Joash, the son of Achazah, and stole him away from among the princes who were being slaughtered. She took him and his nurse, sequestered them in a bedroom, and hid them from Athaliah, so that he was not killed. He remained hidden with his nurse in the house of Adonai for 6 years. During this time, Athaliah ruled the land. In the 7th year, Jehoiada summoned the captains of 100 men, platoons, of both the Kari and the guard. He brought them into the house of Adonai, made an agreement with them, and had them swear to it in the house of Adonai. Then he showed them the king's son, and gave them this instruction: Here is what you are to do. Of you who come on duty on Shabbat, a third normally guards the royal palace. A third is at the shore gate, and a third is at the gate behind the guards. The first third is to continue guarding the palace and serve as a barrier, while the other two groups of you who come on duty on Shabbat will guard the house of Adonai, where the king is. You are to surround the king, each man with his weapons in his hand. Anyone who penetrates the ranks is to be killed. Stay with the king whenever he leaves or enters. The captains over hundreds did exactly as Jehoiada the Kohen ordered. Each took his men, those coming on duty on Shabbat, and those going off duty on Shabbat, and came to Jehoiada the Kohen. Then the Kohen issued to the captains of hundreds the spears and the shields that had been King David's and were kept in the house of Adonai. The guards then took positions, each man with his weapons in his hand, and from the right side of the house to the left side of the house, alongside the altar, alongside the exterior of the house, and around the king. Then he brought out the king's son, crowned him, gave him a copy of the testimony, and thus made him king. They anointed him, clapped their hands, and shouted, Long live the king! When Athaliah heard the shouting of the guard and the people, she entered the house of Adonai where the people were, looked and saw the king standing there on the platform, in keeping with the rule, with the leaders and the trumpeters next to the king. All the people of the land were celebrating and blowing trumpets. At this, Athaliah tore her clothes and cried, Treason! Treason! Jehoiada the Kohen ordered the captains of hundreds, the army officers, escort her out past the ranks of the guards, but anyone who follows her, kill with the sword. For the Kohen had said, she must not be put to death in the house of Adonai. So they took her by force and led her through the horses' entry to the royal palace, and there she was put to death. Jehoiada made a covenant between Adonai, the king, and the people, and they would be Adonai's people, and a covenant between the king and the people. Then all the people of the land went to the house of Baal and broke it down. They completely smashed its altars and images and killed Matan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Next, the Kohen appointed officers over the house of Adonai. He took the captains of 100 and the Kari, the guards, and all the people of the land, and they brought the king down from the house of Adonai, going by way of the gate of the guards to the royal palace. There he sat on the throne of the kings. All the people of the land celebrated, and at last the city was quiet. That is how they killed Athaliah with the sword at the royal palace. Here ends today's reading. So this is an interesting reading to me. I think one of the things that stands out is the rebellion against the kings. And where in a lot of cases that might be a bad thing, where someone commits treason or treachery against a king, in these two cases, it seems like it's a, well, I wouldn't say it seems like, it is a good thing, because the rebellion against the bad kings in these scenarios led to God's restoration or God's will being done. In the first scenario, we see how Jehu rebels against the king, but not in his own strength, and I think that is notable. He is a servant to the king. He's loyal to the king, even though he doesn't agree with the king. Last night, in our Bible study at 6:30 on Zoom, that was a point that was raised, that the servants were so loyal to their masters to the point that even if they disagreed with them, a loyal servant kept loyal, and I think that's notable, you know. But in this case, the prophet came and anointed Jehu and anointed him the next king, and now because he got the go-ahead from Adonai, he got the go-ahead from God to become king, he used his power as commander of the army to overthrow the bad king and get rid of the Baal worship, which is, we give God thanks for that, even though the Bible says that he still didn't turn people away from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nevat. but at least he ridded Israel of the Baal worship. And that's interesting to note. And then now in the second scenario, we see where the priests rises up and goes against the queen, the wicked queen, because she killed all of her royal family, all those who were next in line for the king, trying to, I guess, retain power for herself and set up her own plans. But the priest of God, and thank God that there are people of God that are amongst the people, even when the evil is reigning, even when evil is in charge of the land. There are people of God that are ready to do the right thing. Took away one of the sons and hid him and protected him and kept him until he was a ripe old age. And then they set him up as the king, as the rightful king. And then I'm happy to see how it's not all of Israel that were following all the bad stuff that the bad leaders were doing. Yes, they were probably to an extent, but at the same time, they still recognized God and God's decision and God's choice of David's family and the royal family being there as their king, as they welcomed young 6-year-old Joash as their king. And then I'm happy that he is under the guidance of the priest of God, the Kohen, Jehoiada. So we'll pause the story here today, and then we'll see how the story continues to unfold tomorrow as we turn the page to a new chapter and a new day by God's grace. Blessings on you.